Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that's dialogue consists of saying, "Oh, wow, I can't believe this is happening right now," and other such quippy dialogue of the 2023s. I am your host, Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and I am with my co host as usual.
Yes, I'm James, aka James04E, aka I can't believe that just happened, guys.
Guys, I can't believe. Am I flying? No way. No way I'm just flying right now. And other such quips of
Guys, we
modern
have
game
company.
writing. Yeah, we got company. Let me take a selfie real quick. I don't even know. I think that's like too far.
Oh god.
Um, Main character protagonist takes a selfie for their insert whatever social media platform tie-in. Mickey Mouse tweets at you in Kingdom Hearts 3, and you're like, gonna go save Riku. This is
Man,
real. It's just the Kingdom Hearts 3 tweeting hashtag like re King Mickey.
man,
Um,
the setup for a selfie is definitely difficult to write.
yeah. I brought this up because I'm playing Spider-Man Remaster.
Oh,
I don't think that game has bad dialogue like that. To be honest, it's borderline, but it's
hmm,
Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always been quippy and like lame. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
But it's teetering. It's close. It's close, but I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, so let's get into our weeks. We've missed out on some weeks of podcasting due to scheduling issues.
Yes.
So we've now had like 2 weeks of not talking. So like James, what have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Risk of Rain 2.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded it a couple weeks ago because actually it was kind of funny. One of my friends, we had been playing what is it? We had been playing Gunfire Reborn for a bit. We kind of got bored of it. We were on like really high difficulties and we were just kind of beating it. And so he was like, we should try a different roguelike. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to try? And he said, well, we could just try Risk of Rain 2. And I happened to have like $20 in my Steam wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So I just bought that and the DLC. And it was only like $30 total, I think. Played it for like 5 hours. And I was like, this is cool, but I'm already getting kind of bored. And I think so. The problem that I was experiencing is the game has infinite scaling. So naturally, you'll just keep doing more damage. You'll keep getting faster, but you don't necessarily get tankier at the same rate. So like you get to a point where everything's just kind of one shotting you, and that influences how the character kits are designed. Where some of them are where like lots of them are just glass cannons, and like the utility is very. Most of the utility just scales in damage, or I mean, in some cases, movement speed. And so I decided to download some mods, and I had a lot of fun with the mods. I think there were some really cool characters. Like there's a character called the Nemesis Enforcer that I really liked, where the concept is there was a character called the Enforcer who's like I guess like a security police officer kind of guy. He has like a big shield and it's like a riot shield and he can fire his gun from behind it. And every character, or not every character, but lots of characters have like a Nemesis version of themselves where it uses a similar model, but the kit is different. They're edgier and darker in some way. And so the Nemesis Enforcer, he's a like a primarily melee character, and his big I guess his trademark is that he has an ability where he jumps up into the air and slams the ground. And when he jumps up, he grabs the nearest enemy and takes them with him. So he just RKO's them.
That's pretty
And he
cool.
can grab literally any enemy in the game, even the final boss.
There comes the mod power creep.
Yeah, it's and so the trade-off is that he's melee, and as you can imagine, in a game where your tankiness doesn't scale very well, melee is pretty rough. Um, his ultimate is actually a minigun, and it's like a stance kind of thing, so he can fully just decide to use it. But the problem is that he moves unbelievably slowly when he uses it. Like the average character will move like I think 7 meters per second by default when they're walking, and when he's firing the minigun, he goes below 2. So you're just crawling when you use that. So It's really hard to use later into the game unless you get a bunch of unless you get like a lot of movement speed buffs and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, the mods are fun. There's a ton of characters. There's like I think there's like 40 that I have right now or something like that total,
Jeez.
including the base game. Some of them are there because they're just bundled with other characters. I don't necessarily play all of them, and also some of them are there because my friends like them, and we have to have the same mods downloaded to play together.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then besides characters, there was there was a mod that changed the weather on maps randomly sometimes, and there was also a mod that added a couple new enemies that was really nice. And then there were just some basic mods that added like new levels.
So, we also played a little bit of Risk of Rain 2, just vanilla experience, because again,
Hmm.
I'm of the camp of like I want to experience the vanilla game before diving into mods.
Hmm.
And I think something broke in my brain with Skyrim because at one point I downloaded like hundreds of mods and I just like was like I guess I never need to mod a game again or something. I don't know. I had this weird thing where I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm not like into it. So like I really genuinely don't engage in mods that aren't maybe like fan complete rehauls of certain games that need it.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, we played some of the base game with the DLC and that was fun. I'm like surprised that you basically unlocked every character and pretty much did everything within like 5 hours in that game, which is like I feel like a game that you need to spend like a lot of time on. But it seems like you were telling me that the group you were with kind of like power went through every objective.
Yeah, like so. Basically, what we did is every time we got near the end of a run, when we were in the Sky Meadow,
Mhm.
they just knew all the codes for all the commands or all the artifacts. So they just would put those in once, and then along the way, we would just kind of do some essentially achievement hunting. Like I was playing Huntress, and she had a challenge where you had to get through a certain level without taking any damage. So what I did is I found like a corner of the map, and I like climbed up a mountain like Skyrim style, so nobody could like get to me. And I just had my friend go through the entire level.
But like, yes, I mean that's a very unique thing about this game about having like certain challenges like that, and I get
Hmm.
that for unlocking stuff. But do you ever feel like when you're playing with a group that's already beaten and like done everything in a game, do you like feel carried almost and like you can't experience the beginning of the game like as if you started it without knowing anything?
Well, it depends because I guess the reason why I got into the game was primarily for the social aspect. Um, so I guess I didn't really feel that as much. You know, there were times where I was like, you know, maybe I could have taken this a little bit slower, but I also think that not that the game lacks content, but as I said before, with the way that stuff scales, it does get a little samey at a certain point, despite being a roguelike.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't mind too much, kind of getting to the end game stuff a little earlier than normal, because I think honestly, I think without mods, if I was still like grinding that stuff out, I don't know if I would necessarily still play the game.
Mhm.
Again, not because it's like a bad game or anything. I just don't think, at least for me, it did not have the qualities of a game that I would play long term just off of the base content.
See, I think that part of it, I mean, we're just different play styles. I think
Hmm.
part of the content that you may be missing is the fact that, like, a lot of the driving content is to try to unlock these characters, try to unlock different stuff. Although Risk of
Hmm.
Rain 2 is pretty cryptic with certain things. Like, I also had friends who basically did everything so they knew they're like, "Oh, Matt, let's unlock this character. You need to go to this map and do this thing." And like, it's very specific. Like, you probably wouldn't figure it out yourself without looking it up. So it is
Hmm.
kind of tough to be like, "Oh, well, whatever." But yeah, there is sort of like a there is sort of just like a yeah, you kind of burnt through it really quick. But then you were having fun with the mods, which is good.
Hmm.
That you can do that post playing the regular base game, I guess. I don't know. I think we have a different gameplay style in terms of how
Yeah.
we play games.
Yeah, I also think part of it for me was that so the characters you have to unlock, lots of them are very unique. You know, like they fill their own niches. And I had initially felt with the base characters, like, I didn't really like the base characters that much. So I was like,
Hmm.
you know, I would be playing these characters I don't necessarily like for a really long time just to get to like characters I enjoy. And by then, I may not even necessarily want to have like the same drive to play the game.
Hmm. Now, I wonder if that it seems interesting. I wonder if we play roguelikes in a very different way. It seems like from your talk of Slay the Spire, right? When we were talking about that at one point,
Hmm.
you kind of picked a character that you really enjoyed and you had fun with that character, but then other playstyles you did not enjoy as much and it kind of fell off, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I wonder if in roguelikes, because I tend to kind of just take a variety of playstyles and really kind of will enjoy like even if it's like not necessarily good. Like I was playing Hades recently. I've been replaying that and like
Hmm.
I'll do a run where even if I don't particularly like the weapon in Hades, I'll like enjoy something different. I would prefer different rather than like one thing that I enjoy.
Hmm.
Um so I wonder if you are more just like you find something you like and you just stick with it. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think generally. It does depend a little on the game. Like, you know, there are some games where there'll be only one thing that fits what I like, and there are some games where there'll be like 10 things that fit that, right? Like I guess Dota is an example. Like there's lots of characters in Dota that I like because it has so many characters that they can afford to play a little similarly. But in a game that maybe has like 10 characters or something and they all like do something vastly different, I might only play like maybe two.
See, what's interesting about that is I feel like I'm usually variety. Like in a game like an Overwatch, I play pretty much all the roles, and I like to play like all the characters. Um, there are certain characters I don't play, but I'm generally open. But I realize like in fighting games, usually I pick like one character and just
Hmm.
really stick with that one character. I'm wondering if that's like because you need to learn a lot about the character to play even a character. You know, I would
Yeah.
rather get good at one specific thing. I guess that's kind of interesting in terms of how we choose to play these games.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Risk of Rain. So are you gonna continue playing modded Risk of Rain, or are you like done? Do you think?
I'm gonna continue to play modded a little just because it's a game I can play with my friends. But as far as like playing solo, I might be done. Well, so part of it is part of the reason why I played was because I was really bored of like other games that I was playing because I don't have like a huge game library
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. Or I guess technically I do, but lots of them I kind of finished, especially like during college when I had more free time to do it. You know, I would
Mm-hmm.
just essentially every week I would grind out like one game or something like that. And you know, there was like this exact time is like actually a little bit of a lull because so there was an Apex patch today, so I'll be playing that a bit more, and then Cyberpunk DLC comes out actually exactly a week from now. I'm pretty sure.
That's true. I
Uh,
pre-purchased it like a fool.
yeah. Then there's also a Project Loki playtest next week, and I think there's one other thing next week. I can't remember what it is, but there's definitely something else going on. So yeah,
Uh,
it was like this
mhm.
last month was kind of all the games that I played were just getting ready to do more content, so I just was kind of out of other things to do.
Did you take a look at or touch Starfield at all?
No, I haven't yet actually. I'm probably gonna wait a little bit because I hear that that's doing the little bit of the burning GPUs. So might want to hold off on that. That actually almost that same thing almost made me hold off on Diablo 4 because I
Hmm.
had heard like there's like yeah it burns 3090s and I'm like do I have a 3090 or am I good? And looking back, that was probably kind of a dumb. So it
Yeah.
did backfire, but like the thought behind it might be dumb. It's like oh you know it just burns that GPU that's slightly better than mine. I'm good.
I think if you have to ask if you have a 3090, you probably don't have a 3090 because you have money in your wallet. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you would have the pain of being like, I spent like 12 grand on not 12 grand, like $1,200 on like a GPU or whatever that cost at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm interested. I never was even that interested in Starfield, but because
Mhm.
it's a Bethesda game, I'm like, I will probably enjoy it. But I'm not. I don't care enough to buy it right now when I know I can buy it in a couple months. Like, I mean, it's gonna be a couple years before it goes on like a big sale, but it'll probably be
Yeah.
like 30% off at some point.
Mhm.
Um, and Cyberpunk DLC is coming out soon, and I'm like, maybe all right. Let me play Cyberpunk DLC first, and then I will maybe delve into that. I gotta play the Spider-Man games, and there's like a lot of games I want to play before playing that. You know,
Yeah.
I did buy the I have to kill chaos. We gotta kill chaos. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin because that was on sale recently
Mhm.
on Steam. I've been meaning to play that, and I'm like, you know what? I'll pick it up on sale. Apparently, it's like a Neo style, combined with like the Final Fantasy stuff. So it's like
Mhm.
it's like one of those games. You know, like Neo. It's like the Souls ish, but like looter.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
played Neo before.
yeah. So it's like I guess Final Fantasy. It's made by the Neo team, I believe, or it's in collaboration with them. I
Mhm.
think it's like Team Ninja or something. Um, so I didn't actually know that. I just knew it was a little bit different than Final Fantasy stuff. But that sounds up my alley. I'm hoping. Well, they probably will put 16 on PC, but they have not yet. So wait for that to come out. That game kind of came out, and I think if you didn't care about it, like Final Fantasy 16, like you don't think about that game at all. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, but yeah, that was kind of like my assessment of the week in terms of game stuff. So are you gonna day one buy the Cyberpunk DLC?
Oh, I don't know. So if we're talking about like just purely buy, probably, but play, I actually don't know because
Hmm.
I'm gonna want to play Apex. I'm gonna want to play the Project Loki playtest. I'm also gonna be uh going on a trip to New York this weekend, so I won't be able to
Hmm.
play stuff over the weekend. So, yeah, not lots of things to play, not enough time to play them, I guess. But since Cyberpunk is probably the least time sensitive, it's single player, I can just play at any time. That'll probably be lowest priority.
Yeah, I'm like I don't know. I was one of those people when Cyberpunk came out. I really enjoyed it still. And I actually just bought a new graphics card recently, so I'm excited to finally play the game for real.
Hmm.
Like actually have it run properly. Uh, it well, that's if it doesn't have issues, but let's hold out on that. But I am very excited to play that game for real this time, and all of the skill trees, I guess, are getting changed. And like, I feel like playing this, I'm gonna start over. I think playing from the beginning is gonna feel like a completely different game experience. So I'm actually very excited to play it again because I did enjoy what I had. I beaten Cyberpunk before and I enjoyed it, but I think now will be the time to really enjoy the game.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a very very pog time to be a Cyberpunk fan.
Yeah,
And
I also kind of want to check out Red Dead 2 again because I never ended up beating it. But that game is like a behemoth to run, so on
yeah,
PC.
yeah, but also since the last time I played Cyberpunk, I also got a new PC, so it'll run a lot better. I won't have to play on the lowest graphic settings and still get sub 60 FPS,
Yeah, I
and then
know.
like
Like,
freeze every time I look in an explosion.
I mean, also the game is more optimized now at this point too, over the time they've spent on it. So I have high hopes that even if the DLC is bad, like I think the DLC will probably be good, or I bet it's gonna. It either has to be like amazing, everyone loves it, or it has to be controversial in some way, and people are gonna be mixed, and then they'll love it anyway later, like the game, where people were like, "Oh my god, the game is like." bad game, and now everyone's like, we love Cyberpunk and anime. Oh my god, it's the best game. We all knew it was the best game forever. Pretty much what everyone predicted. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm way more excited about that than Starfield, but that's just space. Space doesn't really appeal to me as a genre. It never really has. Um,
Yeah, I for me it's like I like the concept of traveling to places like other
mhm.
planets in space, but I don't like being in space.
Yeah, I think it's a little like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think in real life, if I got the chance to go to space, that would be cool. But in game setting, I don't really care to fly ships. I was never a vehicles guy.
Yeah, Sam.
I don't care what my ship looks like. I don't need to go to a planet and terraform the planet. I mean, I would play Spore, I guess, the space stage of Spore. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, like, so are you also just in the camp of like the No Man's Sky and like the Star Citizen and the Eve, like pretty much any space related thing? I just don't care about.
Yeah, I consider it kind of boring to be honest. Like like something I would say to people sometimes is the most boring part of Star Wars is when they're in space.
I guess yeah, like I don't know. It's
Like
like
we like people like all the cool planets and shit and like the like ground battles and stuff like the so not that the space battles aren't cool, but I can only watch so much of two big ships shooting at each other while characters talk about how dire the situation is
what
before
is
it's like
your preferred like
yeah.
fantasy setting? Are you like a fantasy? Are you like a westerny? Like what is your if you had
Ooh.
a I guess for let's just narrow the scope to gaming, like what is your preferred like I guess setting in gaming for I guess it depends on the game, but
I mean, I guess I like futuristic stuff, but I also like melee combat and stuff like that.
mhm
Like if we're just talking like purely like aesthetic and stuff like that, uh I think I really like Halo and like Titanfall. Like
mhm
sci-fi but not always in space. Like actually on cool planets and stuff like that.
like a Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually
it's
actually
funny.
I
Yeah.
haven't played Destiny that much now that I think about it. I'd probably like it. I
Yeah,
played Destiny 1 a while ago on Xbox.
I think it would be impossible for you to get into Destiny 2 right now though. Like I think you just
Yeah.
got to wait for like Destiny 3 or like a universe reset.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Um yeah, I don't again, I think of the example of like Warframe and I'm like that game is really fun, but I just don't care about anything in that game because they're all like robot-y looking. Like I don't like that aesthetic at all. So in a game where you grind for your cosmetics and you grind for your character's appearance, if I don't care at all about what I look like, then I just fell off. But then there's like a Final Fantasy 14, which again, I don't know if I really like that aesthetic all that much either, but I prefer it to you know, I prefer that more like fantasy look than space.
Hmm.
Um yeah, and if I was playing a game like I like a chivalry style like people running at each other with slow melee weapons over like lightsaber battle and like lasers, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, what I really like is like futuristic stuff that mimics fantasy. That shit's cool.
Hmm.
Like I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
like a
I'm trying to
yeah.
think of like examples. It's kind of hard to come up with, but like the idea of people in the future just using swords is pog.
Well, Final Fantasy kind of does that with like the newer Final Fantasies.
Hmm.
They have at least in 15, it's like boy bands and they're driving cars, but they're also like it's kind of weird and swords and old tech and everything's magic tech.
Hmm.
Everything is using magic and as their like energy and stuff.
Yeah,
I
like
guess 16 is even more like the witchery look. I only saw trailers when it was
yeah.
being announced. I haven't really delved into 16 that much.
I guess now that I
Um,
think about it, like if they did more with like the Star Wars extended universe, like the comics and stuff, they got rid of the guns. Maybe I think it'd be a lot cooler.
Well, like Knights of the Old Republic, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, what was always cool to me about those games is like it. I think it pays off well because I believe in those games you use a sword for a lot of it, and then you can get a
Yeah.
lightsaber, and like that
Hmm.
kind of pays off, and that's cool. but the fact that you're using like actual weapons in Star Wars is neat. I don't know.
Yeah, they just don't do that stuff enough, man. Like, I want a movie of that kind of stuff instead of the
Well,
like. God,
you'll
I
get a
feel like
TV show.
what?
You'll get a TV show, one of like 27 spin-off TV shows
Yeah.
now.
Oh man, I remember when I was watching Kenobi, and like at the start, it was like, yeah, I can't wait for stuff to happen, and then yeah, the
Well,
the episodes definitely happened.
I was into Mandalorian. I think I watched the first 2 seasons, and then I'm like, "Man, this is good." And then they're like, "Watch Book of Boba Fett and this one and Ahsoka and this
Hmm.
one and watch all of Clone Wars in this order." And then I'm like, "Okay, I'm good." I don't even like I really am not a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I actually never got into Mandalorian. I don't quite know why. I guess like when I first heard about it, I didn't think it'd be that cool, and then I saw like it was actually kind of funny because I think it was in season 3, which was one that people didn't like. There was like a fight with like one of those like I don't know what they're called, like the black lightsabers or something. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Maybe I'll watch it one day. Then I heard people saying season 3 was really bad, and then I heard Book of Boba Fett was bad, and they were like, well, you have to watch Book of Boba Fett. I'm like, yeah, I'll pass.
See, the reason I think it became bad is because it was Mandalorian was something everyone thought would be bad, and it was good. And I believe it was a John Favreau thing, right?
Yeah,
Um, so it was like supposed to, everyone was like, this is gonna be boring. So they were able to actually do an interesting story, and then it became popular, and they're like, oh, okay, let's tie this into 15 other things, which is the problem.
man.
Um, and I also, now that I think about it, I guess the reason I don't like space stuff so much is because I never really watched Star Wars as a kid. So I'm like, again, no, never really was nostalgic for space or anything. Um, but space western, I like a space westerny theme where it's like they're in space, but it's like it's like a western. Like that's
Yeah,
kind of cool. Um,
yeah, I really like that.
I like the game Boktai, which I talk about a lot. The GBA Power game. They're like a western vampire. Like you're kind of like you're a gunslinger, and it's kind of has western elements, and there's like tumbleweeds and stuff. But it's
Hmm.
like Dracula, and that's a cool combo. Uh, the mix of like the horror Dracula stuff with like Western is cool.
Oh god,
Um,
that just made me think. Space Western is such a cool aesthetic
it
that it
is.
made people convince themselves that Boba Fett did anything in Star Wars.
It really is, and that's maybe that I'm like well, now I'm thinking of like maybe that's probably why I like Mandalorian a little bit more because it's more like its own thing.
Hmm.
Um, what are some other like other settings in like steampunk? I never care about like at all that
Yeah, I was never
aesthetic.
crazy about it either, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, I I kind so this is funny because we were talking about cyberpunk. I kind of like cyberpunk settings, but the whole like replacing your body with like all these robotic parts thing is like it's okay. I'm not like crazy about it. Like the visuals I love though. Like the like cyberpunk visuals are peak. But
yeah.
um
I think Cyberpunk looks awesome.
like the so I it's not even like the themes that are the problem. It's just like I don't quite relate to these characters replacing their body with cybernetics. Like the themes are great. Don't get me wrong. I love the themes around it, but it's just like, are you like stupid?
I would 100% replace like okay. I feel like I'm on the
so,
opposite side of things where I'm like if I could get like bionic legs that let me run around and stuff, I would do it.
so like some of it, I understand a little bit, but I think the problem is, I think about all the times where like my PC is blue screened or something. Like, what if that happens to my legs? What
I
if
mean
my
that's
legs
true.
blue screen?
That is very true. I don't think I would opt into like removing an arm to get like arm, but if you like lost an arm or like maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like get some eyes or something.
Yeah, like
Um,
that's what I'm thinking too. Like if you're replacing body parts, it's kind of it's kind of weird. But like I think if like you already have lost them, it's like go for it.
I
I'm
do
all for
like the
advanced
body
prosthetics.
horror elements of Cyberpunk 2, where there's like
Yeah,
where it's like the whole gang of people who are just like addicted to body replacements, so they just look like
yeah,
psychopaths. Um, and then also the weirdness of like the basically like the OnlyFans characters that are just like literally these gold plated weird. There's a lot of like the characters that are like they look like they have like like plastic skin and stuff. Just weird. Just
Hmm.
uncanny valley creepy vibe. But as Cyberpunk as an aesthetic, I did not care about until the Cyberpunk the game came out. Now I'm kind of into it. I think it's a cool aesthetic. Um, I think. What are some other like good games? If you think about like a game and it like is set in this thing, like you'll play it.
Hmm.
I don't like the Oh, I was just thinking. I just had one that was pretty good. I mean, I keep thinking for some reason about Far Cry Primal, a game no one cares about.
Yeah.
Just like caveman aesthetic.
Man, yeah, I
Um,
remember that actually.
See, that's not me like hating on that because I think that as that's actually kind of cool, but it had triggered something in my head. I can't remember what I was gonna say. Where there was like another similar thing where it's like, oh, if a game is like this, it's like, oh, I don't care. Oh, you know what?
Hmm.
Maybe like zombies. It's like I don't care.
Yeah, I've never been crazy about zombies. Like, I think it's more about the other stuff you do within that aesthetic.
Mhm.
Like, I think more often than not, the society in like good zombie stories, the society that existed before zombies is more interesting than like the zombies themselves.
See, I think that's why like a Half-Life 2 is kind of a cool zombies because it's
Hmm.
zombies but like because of aliens, you know what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah,
its own
yeah,
weird thing. They're zombies in practice, but it doesn't feel like it. I think that's
yeah. I
kind of a
agree.
cool twist on it. But like a game like a I'm gonna say The Last of Us, even though I think that's probably like the peak zombie game in terms of like writing, I would assume. I don't know, I haven't played Last of Us. Um but like of that type of game, that's probably, and they're not really zombies. They have a unique
Yeah.
thing too, I think, right?
Hmm.
Um, so like that, and like a Left 4 Dead 2, like like things that use that well, I guess. I mean, Left 4 Dead 2 is just kind of like a homage to that whole genre.
Yeah,
Um,
I really like the way that Halo did the flood because it literally is zombies, but I think that they do some really cool stuff with it, like the body horror, the fact that it's like the whole universe has like multiple parts of the universe have specific protocols for them, and like the Halo rings are literally made to destroy them. So it's like it's a different kind of horror than normal zombies, where it's like they're always there, they're somewhere out there. You just have to hope that you don't run into them. Basically, it's not like they've like taken over the whole universe or something like that.
I have a maybe a hot take depending on the community that listens to this. Um, I kind of will get put off on a game when I see trailers for a game if the game has like a furry art style that is like very like it it is like okay, if the game's art style is like anthropomorphic characters, cool, but if they start looking like OC art stuff, I get really put off on the game where I'm like I don't think I want to play this. Like well, actually, the game you talked about earlier is kind of a good example. I mean, it's not that bad, but the Gunfire Reborn having all the animal
Oh yeah.
characters, I think turns a lot of people off of that game.
Hmm.
I don't think the game is actually that egregious with it. I think more so there's a I can't remember the name of it, but there's like this game where it's like I think it's a Metroidvania or something, and just like a lot of the reviews are like it's cool, but like the characters are it's a little like weird. I don't know. There's certain games like that where um I don't know. It's not my vibe, and I will judge it a little bit preemptively, even if the game is good. It's just something about it. I don't vibe with it as
Hmm.
much. I think it's when the art is like very like it's like almost sexualized in a way, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is just a regular game, but like people are feverishly drawing fan art in the background. There's something about it that just off puts me. What's weird is like a game like a Sly Cooper. Do you know Sly Cooper on like the PS2?
Yeah.
I mess with that game like from a kid. and that is like almost borderline in that area of like in that zone of like, I don't know, like this that like that's like tolerable to me, but then I think it's more of the indie thing where it can be like, why is that mouse storekeepers? Why do they have like 20-inch thighs in this game for no reason? Just not
Yeah.
explained. Why do they look like that? I don't know. I don't like this. I don't know.
Yeah, I,
Um
I think I agree with you. I'm having a hard time coming up with like specific examples, but I think I know what you're like talking about.
yeah, there's certain games and I can't think like off the top of my head, but like when it hits you with that, especially trailers, like you'll be watching it and it's like, "Oh, it's like Stardew Valley," and it just hits you with that portrait art and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. This is a little this is a little weird. We're in dangerous territory." Um
Hmm.
is there anything like that or any other games that you just immediately are kind of like, I would say I guess you could judge by a cover and you can also be surprised by these games because some of them are very good. It just happens to be, you know, this style. Um, but is there any other like type of game that you'll look at and like I think RTS is a genre I will look at or a game any game that has like a map that you're looking at and you have little
Hmm.
like dots that you like strategically will place. I'm just like I just can't deal with this. Like I'm just not even going to attempt to care about this.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm generally not too crazy about turn-based games that aren't card games. Um,
okay, interesting.
like even with Slay the Spire, I was like initially pretty turned off by it. Um, I guess like with games that I like to play, they're very like not necessarily action heavy, but when I'm actually doing things, I'm like doing them myself, like literally, almost literally with my hands.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not too crazy about like very very automated actions.
How
Um,
do you feel about grinding in games?
it's funny because I think I've talked about it before, but I used to play Borderlands 3 a lot, and
Mhm.
I used to be get so good at grinding a singular boss that I could do it without looking. So I would be
Oh,
like
yeah.
watching a Twitch stream or like watching an anime while I'm grinding Borderlands 3.
But like overall, like I think we did talk about this before, but like as a net positive, like do you enjoy an element of grinding in games?
Yeah, kind of. So the thing is, I play games that require grinding, and I do the grinding, right? And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, I can't look back and say I didn't enjoy the games. But I think the actual reason why I don't necessarily enjoy the grinding part, but the reason why I do it is because it's just something to like I guess kind of keep my hands busy. I don't usually just straight up grind and just like stare at my screen the whole time while I'm doing it or something. Like I'll usually like let's say there's a new album that I want to listen to or something, but I don't want to just lay in bed and listen to an album. Maybe I'll listen to it while I'm like grinding in Diablo or something like that. Or like if
Exactly,
I'm
yeah.
listening to a podcast or something, I'll listen to it while I'm grinding.
I'm a big podcast while grinding kind of guy.
Hmm.
It's almost like creating your own Family Guy with Subway Surfers
Oh
videos
god.
before that was a thing. Um, I think games like I can point to or like Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, where you can kill enemies and get souls, and like sometimes they're rare and you can grind for them. I don't know. I like a rare drop. I played old school RuneScape for a while. Seeing a big rare thing appear, big number, big dopamine hit. I enjoy that every so often. Especially, I think I really like grinding in like a single player game where if it's too long of a grind, it's annoying. Like Final Fantasy 15, there's like a dungeon that to get the best sword, it's like 100 floors of garbage.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Um,
I
but if it's
also
like reasonable and it's like you feel like you achieve something, like I can enjoy that.
I also don't necessarily like challenge based grinding.
Hmm.
Like things that have like pretty reasonable failure conditions. I'm pretty sure everybody who's grinded a lot before they've had an experience where they accidentally die in the middle of a grind or something that's kind of annoying. I
Yeah,
feel like that should I feel like that shouldn't be like a thing that happens too often. Like
I. Mhm.
like I was talking about before with Risk of Rain, that one achievement where I had to go through a whole level without taking damage. I feel like that's like a very frustrating kind of grind. Because like you'll get near the end of the level without having taken damage, and then one random mob will just hit you, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
wow, all my time was just wasted.
I definitely don't like a game like I enjoy a good boss in like a Souls game kind of grind. But I definitely do not enjoy the time waste of certain games where you'll do a final boss and they have a first phase that's nothing and it just wastes your time.
Hmm.
Remnant 1 recently playing that, having the final boss, slight spoilers for Remnant 1,
Yeah,
final boss in that game is one bad and two um it has a first phase that's nothing but can kill you still, but also is
yeah.
just like it's just a cut, and then like I think it's an unskippable cutscene too, where it's like a
Hmm.
cutscene, and then you just have to go to the boss. It's like stop wasting my time, just let me do it. And to a lesser extent, I was getting like that with Undertale and the Genocide route, doing Sans boss.
Hmm.
Um, I was grinding that out, and I would get to that boss is thematically about trial and error, and it makes sense. Um, but it is one of those things where it's like I'm only bad at the end part and I have to do the 30-minute beginning part, and
Hmm.
that can be annoying.
Yeah,
Um
I had never really thought of boss fights as like grinds necessarily. That's kind of interesting.
well, I think they can be in like a Souls where if you have to
Yeah.
grind out a boss where you have to learn it a bunch of times. Um if it's a hard enough boss in a Souls game, although you can go and level up in like in an Elden Ring, but you know, you can
Hmm.
try like Bloodborne, like Orphan of Kos or whatever that boss is. Like that's a grind because it's just a tough encounter that I think a lot of people try to do, like go and do.
Hmm. You
Um
know what? You know what it is for me. When I'm fighting bosses, right? I think of like the trial and error as like an essential part,
mhm.
and mm, it. I don't think of beating a boss in the same way as I do like acquiring a new weapon or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Because when I'm grinding for a new weapon or something, like I'm just trying to get it to drop from a boss. It's like a drop chance.
Yeah.
I I think of it very differently as when I'm fighting a boss for the or when I'm fighting a boss to, like progress in the story or something like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I think grinding is more of a like kill X enemy 1,000 times to get the rare hat drop. Um
Hmm.
I was just watching a episode of Game Center. I think it's like DX or something. It's some like Japanese show from like 2006 where a guy goes around and does game challenges and stuff.
Hmm.
And it's just they did an episode about and they were talking about Dragon Quest 1 and how it was like the Pokemon Game Freak developers were talking about like, oh, we were playing Dragon Quest 1 and there was a magic hat that you could get from grinding and my friend had two and I had none, and it's like I want to make a game where you could trade the magic hat. So we made Pokemon so you can trade things. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Um I mean, oversimplification of it, but yeah, I guess, grinding has been around for forever, and I think some games, I think Monster Hunter is like the king of the fun grind.
Hmm.
Because in those games you will grind the same enemies over and over again, but you make slow progress towards something. You're working toward making your weapon better. It's
Yeah,
it's satisfying to make your stuff better slowly and like making progress. It's like, oh, I need to get that tail. Let me go fight this guy. And I think it's quick enough that it's not grueling, and the gameplay of it is actually pretty fun.
yeah.
Um,
You know what it might be actually when I'm trying to grind for an item, right? I want the item to do something else. Like I get the
mhm.
item, then I do something. Most of the time, whereas with like just beating a boss, it's like I'm not necessarily trying to like do something after. Like that's the end goal. So I guess it's almost like when I'm grinding for an item, it's almost like this grind is like gatekeeping me from future content
Hmm.
or from like a future goal. Like in Diablo specifically, right? Like I'm grinding to get to level 100 and get the items I need so I can fight Uber Lilith.
S-
Whereas like if I were to die a few times fighting Uber Lilith, I wouldn't necessarily think of that in the same way as like spending time grinding.
See, what's funny to me is I find more enjoyment in the grind in like a Diablo to get the items than when I actually have them. I feel like I fall off. If I grinding
Hmm.
to get the ultimate cool items and like get a good build is more fun to me than like having it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think we've discovered a lot about our gaming preferences today. I think we could
Hmm.
go to the questions. If you have a
Oh,
question, you can email us at hyeppodcast@gmail.com. That is the hyeppodcast@gmail.com. James, you want to kick us off with a question?
yeah. Give me a sec. Let me just pull up the doc.
The doc.
Oh, and actually,
Uh,
before I go to the first question, science fantasy is the genre I was thinking of earlier.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Like
have a
Avatar, I
maybe
guess,
not
James
maybe,
Cameron.
maybe not like Avatar.
I mean, that's exactly science and fantasy.
Uh, um, yeah. So science fantasy, the main thing is So I'm gonna quote the article I'm looking at right now because it has 144 genres and subgenres. It says these stories show a magical futuristic world leaning towards soft science. These stories can also contain science that is so well developed. It says so well develop. Okay. So well developed that it appears to be magic and or characters who possess abilities whose scientific tech who this has a lot of typos. And or characters who possess abilities through scientific technology that seems to be magical.
I kind of there was actually a recent game that was like that. I think it was like like a first person magic game where
Hmm.
like you shoot magic, but I
Oh
think it was
yeah,
like
yeah,
tech based.
yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Um yeah, that's like kind of a cool genre. I feel like I don't mess with that as much either though. I don't know.
Hmm.
Actually, before you read a question, I have my own question I'm going to ask you. What
Ooh.
Okay, so like say you're playing an MMO or it doesn't have to be an MMO, but like it's a game and you have a choice of character archetype. You have dual blade person, katana
Ooh.
person, sword and shield person, guy with like giant club, just like brute two hand, or like archer, or like like stealth guy or whatever, like
Hmm.
rogue. Like what archetype do you pick in like every game if possible?
Hey, what did you say before? A guy with giant club?
I mean, you could just think of any like
Oh.
traditional archetype. Like you have like the wizard, you have the two hand club, the archer, the
Hmm.
rogue, the dual blade, the katana person. You know what I mean? Like that very like granular. Like you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. So not just the broad like rogue mage warrior. Yes,
Yeah,
this covers everything in any video game.
no, I know, but like think like if you're thinking about it almost like an MMO where
Yeah.
they get to that point where an MMO just has everything. It's like here's the
Hmm.
pugilist. They have like two dual fists, like the monk character.
Yeah.
Um what is your go-to? Like what do you always go for?
I usually go for like berserker or barbarian characters generally.
Mhm.
Um, not I don't like playing slow characters though. So like
Mhm.
some games will do like these like the big slow tanks. I don't really like those at all because those are like
Mhm.
you have very little freedom with those characters. You kind of sit somewhere and just like do your thing, and it's weird.
Mhm. I do love a berserker. I love a glass cannon. I want to have the slowest biggest weapon that is like a great sword in Monster Hunter, where it's like so
Hmm.
slow and but you charge it and then if you hit it does like a million billion damage.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I want to do the risk reward character where it's like you can do a billion or nothing. Like there's no in between.
Hmm.
Unfortunately in most games I feel like the two-hand fast character is always like the meta. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. It is true. It very frequently is the meta.
Yeah, it's funny how like that is the case across like multiple genres. Like fast and a lot is almost always the best. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like fighting games, it's usually the case. Like most game. Can you think of a game where being slow and hitting hard is better than being fast and being able to dodge? Like, I really genuinely can't
Mhm.
think of a single game where it's better.
Yeah, and it's just because mobility gives you like flexibility.
Hmm. And maybe it's like a skill ceiling thing where if you're
Hmm.
slow and hit hard, someone who can dodge is always going to be better if they are better at the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, do you want to ask one of the questions?
Okay. Sure. Okay. I found one. What is the most memorable moment in a video game that you have experienced?
Hmm. I
I have
want
a
to
funny
say
answer
one
for
that
this
I
one.
didn't. Or I'm gonna say the one that everyone thinks about, and I didn't even experience this until recently in the game. Final Fantasy VII spoilers for whoever, whatever. It's the most spoiled moment in video games. Um, the part where Sephiroth does the big, he flies down. It's like doo doo doo, and does the stabby stab, and everyone's like,
Hmm.
no, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
That just randomly reminded me of a bunch of Mortal Kombat fatalities. And I was like, damn. I was just thinking, like, imagine if this was so much gorier. That'd be horrible.
I'm wondering like moment in a game I have the memorable moment of playing uh as a kid playing my first PS1 game. So I had a PS2, my first console that I owned. I had played the NES stuff before, but PS2 buying Rayman 1 for PS1 because again, not understanding the concept of PS1 versus PS2 games, playing Rayman 1 and getting to the first boss and just no chance of beating it. Just playing like
Hmm.
Rayman 1, just this like notably hard game as a child and just being like that was the moment I got good. Like I had to get good. Like that was literally the defining moment of like I got to get good is Mr. Mosquito or whatever the first boss. And I'm just like I this is the one game I owned.
Hmm.
So, I can't think of like these hard hitting moments in games though. Do you have anything specific that you're thinking of?
I have one. It's pretty funny. So,
Yeah.
I used to be a really big Transformers fan as a child, and
Mhm.
I played when I played Transformers: Fall of Cybertron. This game had probably two of the greatest trailers in video game history, like period. So there was a VGA cinematic trailer for Transformers: Fall of Cybertron. There was also an E3 trailer. Um, and they were both cinematic trailers. They're both fantastic. I would highly recommend to look both of them up. Um, and this moment, it specifically references the E3 trailer because in the trailer, um, it's a standard Transformers Cybertron fight, but the Autobots are losing, and then it's revealed that the like city that they're fighting on is like a Transformer. It's Metroplex. And
Mhm.
so I thought when I like this game came out in what, like 2012, I was like 13. I thought that was the coolest shit ever. And then I play the game, and when they reveal Metroplex in the game, so don't get me wrong, it still looked great, but it wasn't nearly as cool as the trailer. 13-year-old me, this was at like midnight, and my parents were like in the room right above me, and I yelled, "What the fuck?" And I woke them up, and they were so mad. I'm sitting here like this wasn't anything like the trailer. It was all slow and like there's lots of steam and stuff. It looked like he was having a hard time transforming. It was like like an old dude with erectile dysfunction or something. Like what
Oh
is
my
this?
god. Just
It was-
disappointed.
yeah.
Just like so disappointed you
And
just
looking back,
remembered
it
it.
was perfectly fine. Like it was great. It's just that they can't do the same thing they did in the cinematic trailer in a game. Obviously, but when I was 13, I didn't realize that.
Oh, you know what? I'll rapid fire some more. I feel like these are more just vibes rather than like actual moments in a game. Oh, you know what? I just thought of another one. Playing. All right, just the Wii console. Just turning that on.
Hmm.
The entire experience of Wii
Oh yeah,
Sports and the Wii console and like WarioWare, like some of the most memorable. Like just like that was like a crazy. Like playing the
yeah.
Wii for the first time. That was like a game changer. Um, I would also say Little Big Planet. basically that was kind of my first PS3 entry. That was a game changer of just so good.
Hmm.
And the game Scribblenauts, seeing the trailer for that, I rewatched the Scribblenauts trailer like a million times before it came out, and just being in awe that you could like write anything, it just is an object, and just I mean, the magic is worn off now, but those games are great, but like at the time it was insane.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, that was I think I just have like moments in time in which I think of I don't think of in-game moments. I think more about like where I was when I was playing them.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of similar where it's like, if we're just talking like raw memorable moments, I can think of a few. But like I when I really think back on like my childhood and like the games I really like, it's more general. Like,
Mhm.
it's not like an exact moment. Like one I can think another one I can think of is like Gears of War 3. Like the whole intro level where oh, crap, what were they called? Not the locusts, but the other guys. The ones that were like the infection.
Never
I
played
Yeah,
is
I
it the
don't
Swarm? I don't know. I've never played Gears of War.
I need to look this up now because I need to remember this.
It was it the chainsaw gun guy? The chainsaw guns? Was it the
No.
Gears of War Funko Pop game that I don't think
Oh,
came out?
they were called the lambent. So the whole
Uh-huh.
idea was like the lambent. They were like this fungus that would infect the locusts, and I don't remember what they did exactly, but the locusts were normally like white and red, but they made them like green and orange, and they had all these like they had all this pus coming out of them. It was cool, but God, I need to remember another enemy name now. I think it was called the Leviathan. I need to look this up. Was it the Leviathan? Yes, it was a Leviathan. So in Gears of War, Leviathans are like these giant like sea monsters. Um, and so in Gears of War 3, there was just this moment where it's revealed like, wait, the lambent like infected a Leviathan. It's just biting the shit out of your ship, which is like a water city that people are living on. It was really cool, but it was like a thing throughout an entire level, so it wasn't this exact moment. But I just remember like sitting there and being like, "Wow, I'm shooting at this big thing. I haven't done this enough in other video games, even though it's really common nowadays. It's cool
What is
enjoyment."
the what is the last thing? This is like off script question, but like what is the last thing in video games that actually like really like blew your mind? Like innovated like last thing you played that was just like, "Oh my god, like this is crazy."
Hmm.
Um
It would definitely have to be something from a Souls game. I think
hmm, interesting.
like maybe Elden Ring or not Elden Ring. Bloodborne. When I was playing Bloodborne for the first time, and I guess it was just the it's not like a twist. I guess every Souls game does it where like halfway through the theme just changes, right? Like when
Mhm.
Bloodborne went from like gothic to Lovecraftian. I think that was
Mhm.
really cool,
You know
especially
what?
since
I
I wasn't necessarily expecting it at the time.
Yeah, and since you're bringing up FromSoft, I do think Elden Ring. I knew it was gonna be good, but like just playing it, just turning it on, and then just walking and being like, "Oh, this is gonna be game of the year." Like within an
Hmm.
hour was definitely like, and you know what? I think Breath of the Wild was a similar thing. Even though I had never beat Breath of the Wild, and I don't necessarily care all that much about it, I do think walking around in Breath of the Wild and just being like open world Zelda game like this is pretty, this is kind of like a game changer a bit. I do think I'm thinking a little bit more like VR though, like in like the Wii, like when you like put on the
Hmm.
VR headset for the first time, you're like, wow, this is actually really um cool. I can't really think of a game in recent memory. I mean, I guess Spider-Man I've been playing with the new
Yeah.
graphics card and all that, so I can kind of enhance everything. And just seeing some of the I think what PlayStation has been doing with their games like God of War and Spider-Man, where you're just sitting there and you're basically just watching a movie and you're like, wow,
Hmm.
this is like really gripping. Like this is really engaging. Just like sitting watching Spider-Man cutscenes and being like, I feel like I'm just sitting here watching some Spider-Man show or movie.
Yeah.
Um, I
Y-
think
You
that's
know.
that's been neat.
Yeah. I was thinking. I don't know how I feel about that being so common nowadays. Because on one hand, it is really really cool. and I do really enjoy it. But also, like as I was talking about before, with that like Gears of War level where you're like playing through the entire thing, and the whole time you have like this essentially a monster like chasing you, right? I feel like you don't get that as much with more cinematic games, where it's like I feel like there is a little bit missing with that, and not that not that it's not replaced with anything of equal value, but sometimes I do wonder if it's something that if it's truly something that only video games could do. You know?
I think part of it is I think a big part of it is I play a lot of indie and like old games,
Hmm.
and I haven't really played too much of the like I don't play AAA games that often, so when I do, it's kind of like it's a nice experience. I think if I only played AAA releases, it would get old because a lot of them use
Yeah.
the same kind of mechanics and a lot of games you like crawl through like crawl spaces for the load zones to load in, and your character
Yeah.
says something like, "I can't believe this is happening." It's like I feel like if I played too many of them, I would start to notice it. Um, but yeah, I think if it's a good I think if the game is fun, like God of War is fun and Spider-Man like gameplay is fun. So the cutscenes are like a little reward, you know. If it's
Hmm.
just kind of boring and cutscenes, it's a different story. Um Actually, thinking
Yeah.
back, I also think Death Stranding as a game was kind of a cool experience, like playing that because it plays so differently than most games. I think that was a cool experience at launch.
Hmm.
I think also games that have net play, like have an interesting novel online system, are usually
Yeah.
pretty cool at launch when you play them. Like a
Yeah. I
Death
agree.
Stranding where things happen. Um,
Oh, so you mean like a Strand game?
You know what's weird? We're gonna probably wrap the podcast up soon, but did you look at the Mario Wonder trailer at all for the new trailer of it?
Oh, I actually haven't seen that. No.
So they added a mode where it's online, but you see
Hmm.
like ghosts of other players.
Oh, the
So it's
Souls
like
method.
it's like the Souls method, but you can put down flags and stuff, and it
Hmm.
like does like the keep on keeping on. Basically, it's like the Death Stranding. Like you put down like a waypoint, people can revive on it, and you can give likes to them. And I'm
Ooh.
like, this is like Death Stranding, Mario Strand like
Oh
mechanics.
my god, it's a Strand game.
It's a Strand type game.
Man, this
Um,
is what Kojima envisioned.
Genius Kojimbo. uh, I will buy I will buy literally anything he releases for full price because I don't care because even if it's bad.
God.
Um,
Man, that
so
reminds me,
yeah.
sort of off topic, but it'll be quick. That reminds me of it was a tweet that I saw earlier where is somebody replying to like the Doja Cat picture where she was like dressed like a demon. And they said like,
Hmm.
you can really tell who's doing the fake insanity thing and who's actually about it. Like if you look at like Kanye and Kojima, like they're just so creative that they're insane, and it's so obvious.
Oh man. I don't know.
Like
I love Kojima's tweet. I think the last thing I saw about Kojima was what was the movie? He tweeted about something and he was like,
it
"This is
was
a
it was Flash, I
masterpiece."
think.
Yeah, he was like, "I just saw Flash. It is a masterpiece of film." I'm like, well, okay, Kojima.
Oh, yeah, I think the funniest part, he doesn't even have to do anything. It's just funny.
It
Like
is
I remember
funny.
he posted a picture. I think it was with Vince Sampella from Respawn, and the caption was just with Vince from Respawn. They're both just standing there, and
It is
I
funny.
was just dying at it for like 10 minutes for no reason.
Oh man. Well, I'm excited for Death Stranding too. I'm not like that is funny though. It's like I don't care at all about it. Like if it dropped tomorrow, I'll be like, "Oh, that's cool, I'll play it." But like
Hmm.
so I'm excited that they're making it, but I don't care. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
I think those are some of my favorite games where I'm excited that it exists, but I do not care at all. I'll get to it when I get to it.
yeah. I have
Um
games like that too, where they come out and the fan base is all excited. I'm like, good for you. Give 'em a little clap,
yeah.
and I go back to
I,
my day.
I will say I think like a FromSoft is like my day one. Like I'll play it on like a day one. Like I know I'm gonna enjoy whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, Even like I might even buy like a Mario Wonder to be honest. Like I think I will enjoy that. I think when a new Nintendo console comes out, I want to be like a day one guy too, and also like play the new thing. I don't know. There are
Yeah.
certain games where I want to play it when it comes out. I think,
Hmm.
and Cyberpunk DLC I think is one of them. Anyway, we're over time, so let's end it here. I'm Matt,
Yeah.
aka Matt Fun Dude. Who are you?
I'm
How'd you
James,
get in
aka
here?
James 04E. Yeah, I broke in. I've never seen this guy in my life. I was just curious what was going on.
Oh yeah, remember that sign off thing we did? Where we're like, I'm on this and that and that. So remember the joke? Yeah, I'm. So I'm basically don't use X, I guess. So I'm mad
Man,
at on Matt Fun Dude on Twitch, and YouTube. I don't really use TikTok that much either. I also haven't streamed in like 2 months or something. I
man,
I want to trust me. I want to, but it's called time management. We can't do everything.
man. It's
So
called capitalism only giving me 5 hours of free time
well,
at
it's like
most.
I get back home to do my other job to then like do this other thing and it's like my free time. I'm like, do I want to stream? I'm like,
Yeah,
not particular. I just want to play like I just want to play Kill Chaos game and not talk about why I want to kill Chaos. I just want to play it sometimes. But
man.
I hope to stream another day, one day.
Yeah,
I
we'll
just
talk about we'll talk about how messed up capitalism is and how it is ruining our free time another day.
next week on our capitalist podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.